This is the Investor Connect podcast program. I'm Halti Martin. I'm the host of this show in which we interview angel investors, venture capital, family offices, private equity, and many other investors for early stage and growth companies. I hope you enjoy this episode. Interested in raising funding for your startup? For your next fundraise, consider 10 Capital Syndicate Platform, an online portal using a special purpose vehicle. The Syndicate Platform allows for online investment and access to over 12,000 accredited investors. Log into the 10 Capital Syndicate Platform to find your next investment. To learn more, go to 10capital.group/SPV. Well, hello, this is Investor Perspectives. I'm the host of Investor Connect, Halti Martin, where we connect startups and investors for funding. Today we have joining us Gaston Eguren, investment analyst at Proeza Ventures. Gaston, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Hal. It's a pleasure to be here.
Great. So tell us more about your work and what you do.
Yeah, so I work at Proeza Ventures. We're the largest mobility-focused VC fund based out of Latam. So I'm part of the investment team here. And our mission at Proeza Ventures is to discover and invest in visionary founders, building early-stage startups that are transforming the way we think about mobility, and with whom we can partner long-term to make a more sustainable world.
Well, great. Yeah. Well, let's talk about the growth in the mobility segment. What do you see going on there?
Well, it's been a crazy couple of years for the mobility segment. I mean, I think it's important to start by saying that mobility has significantly outperformed top performing industries and capital markets. And in the first quarter of 2021, it raised $23 billion of VC money, went to mobility tech related companies. It's been a historical level, historically, yeah. And there's been 107 exits last year and 22 public via SPACs. So it's been a crazy year, yeah.
That's great. And so what do you see as the primary trend in the segment so far?
Yeah, I think this question is very interesting. I like to take a step back before going into it. Us at Proeza Ventures, when we established our investment thesis, it was established around three key pillars that are defined as mega trends for mobility, which are changing mobility, evolving consumer behavior, and environmental awareness. So in the first pillar, we see in changing mobility, the rapid pace of innovation is leading to new technologies, right? So around autonomy, electrification of vehicles, and AI. Also, we see that we're just scratching the new surface in new modes of transportation. So ride sharing, micromobility, car subscription, and all these markets are positioned to experience tremendous growth once economies reopen. And lastly, under this pillar, we see our new business models emerging. So these tech advancements and trends are opening up abundant new opportunities. We now see collaboration across specialized providers and OEMs who once were vehicle manufacturers and are now mobility providers. And we see new markets and customers that bring new opportunities, right? So then when we jump to the second pillar of our investment thesis, which is evolving consumer behavior, we see three mega trends. The first is urbanization, right? So for the first time in history, I mean, more people live in cities than outside them. And this leads to many problems besides just traffic. So now we see transportation within urban city centers needs to transform, right? They need to become more efficient and more sustainable. And then another mega trend we see is e-commerce, right? So online shopping has never been easier, and consumers are now demanding same day or next day delivery. So logistic networks and supply chains are adapting to this, becoming more flexible, digitized, and autonomous. And the last mega trend we see in this second pillar is the trend to give up ownership and switch to usership, right? So private car ownership is going down, usership of shared scooters, bicycles, cars, and etc. And our third pillar is increased environmental awareness, right? So the concern about climate change has never been stronger, and that this places the automotive industry front and center of the issue. So we've seen the rise of alternative fuel cells, so electric vehicles, battery tech is improving, and regulations are pushing for the adoption of EVs.
Well, that's great. And so what makes for a successful company in the mobility segment? What do you look for?
This is a very tough question, right? But I think the first thing and most important is for a successful company is a strong team, right? With credibility and expertise in their domain. Also, the strong capacity of the founding team to recruit the best talent they can. And lastly is the team passion, motivation to chase a common goal, right? Then I think that the second aspect I would say would be the total addressable market, right? So the total size of the market, the initial target market, and is this a credible path forward for the company? the competitive and regulatory dynamics, and if the company can create a dominant position within the market. Then I'd say another aspect that would make a company successful is their technology, right? If they're solving a big and a clear pain point for their customers, if they have a coherent and viable business plan, and if their tech is disruptive and provides a differentiated solution. And lastly, I'd just like to say strong trends. Yeah.
Great. And so what is your participation in the mobility segment so far?
Yeah, so Proeza Ventures has been around for almost 2 years now. We're backed by the Proeza Group, which is a global manufacturer that produces chassis and structural components for pickup trucks, SUVs, heavy trucks, and buses. And they have presence in over 11 countries, right? So this has allowed us to develop unique capabilities and understanding on tech roadmap and trajectories. Us, particularly in Proeza Ventures, we have invested in 11 companies. And yeah, we're still actively looking to invest more.
Great. And so what exactly do you look to invest here as far as what's your criteria for it?
Yeah, so we usually use the 6 T's framework. So we look at the team. The team has a vision, passion, and the skills necessary to scale these companies. We look at the market, as I said, if it's large, growing, accessible, and strategic. Then we look at their tech and business model, if it's disruptive. Then at their traction, right? If they have customer, technical, market, or product validation. We look at the trends, so why now? Any macro shifts that supports their thesis. And lastly, the terms of the round and of the company, and if it fits with our investment thesis.
Well, that sounds great. So what else should we know about this segment?
I think this year we did a deep level analysis within the fund to see what specific segments of mobility we'd like to target. And there's great opportunities around. So we're looking at supply chain management, car subscription, micromobility, hardware. We've seen DMS, which is driver monitoring system, and in-cabin monitoring system on the rise. So yeah, there's a lot of opportunities going around.
Great. And so what changes do you expect to see in, say, the coming 12 months in this space?
Yeah, we can talk for hours about this, right? But yeah, I think cities are going to reevaluate their urban space. So repurposing streets, curbside, they're going to reduce speed limits and even sometimes prohibit access to cars to city centers. We'll see EV adoption continue to increase, especially as battery costs reach that cost parity to internal combustion vehicles. And we think if electric fleets will be taking the main stage in 2021. Also, we're going to see the rise of autonomous commercial vehicles and delivery tech as an emerging staple for the transport of goods, right? We're going to see AI digital solutions around depot management and energy management. We think also in medium densely populated cities, mobility as a service will become an extension of public transport. So we'll see the rise of the first B2G2C business model. Also, we're going to see AI improve voice assistance for cars and other vehicles to make interactions more natural and conversational. The high degree of urbanization and the subscription economy will continue to push the decrease in private car ownership, Shared mobility is going to continue to rise. Online commerce, as well as remote work, is here to stay. So it's going to disrupt commuting and practices and reshape curb space. And I think the last thing I'm going to say is sustainability will continue to be top of mind for everyone. So consumers and regulators will keep pushing this and help the pandemic reshape the mobility shape post-pandemic. Yeah.
Great. Well, the last few minutes that we have here, what else should we cover that we haven't?
I'm not sure. I can give a quick intro on where Proeza Ventures invest if that helps anyone else.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So us at Proeza Ventures, we targeted 5 sub verticals within mobility, where we think that the most opportunities are abound. We started looking at industrial technologies, right? So any technology that makes manufacturing more flexible, modular, or digitized. We'll look at Industry 4.0, AGVs, and others, right? The second vertical we looked at are smart components that make vehicles more autonomous, electric, or connected. We also look at smart city infrastructure and other tech. Our third vertical are new vehicles, where we see companies making from scooters to Class 8 trucks. Our fourth vertical is mobility as a service, right? So micromobility, car sharing, ride hailing, subscription services. And our last vertical is digital data services. And here we see services around mobility that are being digitized. So we see companies focused on logistics, supply chain, telematics, and others.
That's great. Well, how best for listeners to get back in touch with you?
They can go to the proezaventures.com website and contact us through that. Yeah.
Great. We'll include those in the show notes. I want to thank you for joining us today and hope to have you back for a follow-up soon.
Great. Thank you, Hal. It's been a pleasure.
Investor Connect helps investors interested in startup funding. In this podcast series, experienced investors share their experience and advice. You can learn more at investorconnect.org. Hall T. Martin is the director of Investor Connect, which is a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to the education of investors for early-stage funding. All opinions expressed by Hall and podcast guests are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinion of Investor Connect. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon as a basis for investment decisions.